gather around, everybody, because we have some tales to tell. So, very recently, and by recently I mean about last year, found out about something that was a little worrying. So, for context, I'm a North Carolinian. I'm from the great state of North Carolina, and we have had a bit of a historical issue with gerrymandering. And so what will happen is a census will come in. Typically, Republicans will draw up the districts because they usually control our state legislature, try to send it off, and then our courts will strike down the maps because they're biased in some way. They can be racially biased. I think a couple of years back, either a proposed map or just an active map had Charlotte in the same congressional district as Greensboro. And for context, Charlotte is on the border with South Carolina. Greensboro is about 30 minutes from the border with Virginia. Like, these cities are hours apart, and they were in the same congressional district. Like, that's how bad our gerrymandering can get in North Carolina. So, one of our courts had struck down these maps, and the Speaker of our state house, a man by the name of Moore, who I will pop up on screen, the Speaker of the North Carolina House of Representatives, a demon by the name of Tim Moore. You can see the hog DNA on this man's face if I drag this here. You can see it. Just, he's so demonic, he's so evil. Basically some things happened. Some shitters happened. And, well, case basically ends up going to the Supreme Court. And by some shitters happen, I'm going to explain it in a much better way than saying some shitters happen. Basically, Moore versus Harper hinged on the acceptance or the rejection of the independent state legislature theory. The independent state legislature theory basically goes off of a clause in the U.S. Constitution that says that states have the ability to set election laws in their own states. Okay? Makes sense. States in their states can conduct federal elections. That makes sense because it stops fucking weird ass like mixing of like federal and state law. Basically, listen, just have federal elections. We'll let you do whatever the fuck you want in your state regarding how you conduct those elections. The thing is, the Constitution, and I say this as someone who's read the Constitution multiple times, the Constitution is a horrible document. The Constitution is very vague about some very important things that should have been laid out. Like presidential succession, you know, what happens if the guy in power kicks the bucket, was never officially set out in the Constitution until the passage of the 25th Amendment. So you had a couple of issues, like when the first president died in office, Harrison, when he died in office, it was a question over whether or not his vice president, who became the next president, was actually the president or just the acting president. Because the Constitution sucks. It's very vague on very important things, and Republicans, most notably North Carolina Republicans here, wanted to exploit this vagueness here in the independent state legislature theory to basically say that state legislatures could set election laws entirely independent from state judiciaries. And state legislatures could conduct elections entirely independent of state judiciaries, which means a couple of things. That means state legislatures could just gerrymander all they fucking want. Their state judiciary can't reject it because they aren't allowed to. The state legislature's independent here. The state legislature could set some laws that could be potentially very racially targeted without specifying race, and the state judiciary couldn't do anything about it to strike down these laws. Or the governor couldn't veto it because state legislature can do it alone. And this is something that has happened in North Carolina a couple of years back. A law was struck down because it was a voter ID law. And the voter ID that was required by this law was the ID that was less likely to be possessed by minorities in the state, in my state. I think this happened back in 2012. And this law was struck down due to it being racially biased in a surgical manner, was basically what the brief said. Moreover, this means that, say, a federal election comes by, say a presidential general election comes by, and the Democratic candidate gets the most votes in the state. Okay, so as follows through the Electoral College, the candidate who gets the most votes gets the electors, all of the electors of the state. You know who chooses the electors? The state legislature. So instead of being, say, checked by the courts to make sure that they're sending the proper legislators, the proper, members of the Electoral College to vote, the state legislatures could look at this and go, okay, the Democrat won the state. We're sending electors who are going to vote for the Republican candidate. If Moore won in the Supreme Court, and independent state legislature theory won, this is not hyperbole. This would have been the death of American democracy. I have been keeping up with Moore versus Harper for months. Months since I found out this was even going to the courts. Because I knew that if Moore won this case, it was over. It was over. We were done. There's nothing that you could do at this point to try to wrestle back America. If Moore versus Harper won in favor of Moore, that was it. So yesterday we get the verdict from the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, as this lovely, if it can pop back up, meme says, the Supreme Court looked at Moore and said, baby, no. No, as a matter of fact, you cannot do that. You are actually subject to the laws of your state judiciary, because what the fuck is wrong with you? This was a 6-3 decision. The dissenting members were Clarence Thomas, our favorite ring-tailed, mask-wearing animal in office. But the dissenters were Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch, so let's give them a round of applause for being fascists. Also, 2 out of 3 of those people have been confirmed to be taking basically bribes from rich billionaires, and Gorsuch is also kind of under investigation for that, so we'll see what tracks. And then, of course, the people in support of protecting American democracy, the 6-3, were, of course, John Roberts, the Chief Justice, Brett Kavanaugh, Sotomayor, Kagan, Jackson, and I think that's all of them? So, basically, our Supreme Court looked at everything and went, okay, 3 of them said, fuck democracy, we ball, and the other 3 said, hey guys, let's maybe not ruin American democracy. So I'm going to tell you why this is important. Democracy is saved. Clap, fucking pat your back, be happy. Democracy is saved for now. Republicans will still not stop. until they get the ability to switch up these fucking verdicts. Until they get the ability to fuck over our democracy. And they will do whatever the fuck they can to try to fuck us over. Flat out. This is something that we should all know. This is something that we should all expect from these people. It's also saying that my stream is a little failing here for a second. Hopefully it recovers. This could have gone really bad. And this does not mean that you shouldn't watch out for some potential bad shit to happen, because bad shit can still happen in this nation in terms of our elections. In Republican states, laws are still being passed to fuck over minority groups, to fuck over people who will vote against the Republican Party. Not even necessarily minority groups. Stream is lagging. Yeah, just give it a second. Give it a second. Come on. These lawmakers will still try to push the Supreme Court into positions where they may rule in favor of loosening elections laws. Personally, I think one of the things that may have been happening in the backspace, in the not necessarily talked about space among the Supreme Court, about why they voted against Moore versus Harper, at least 6 of them voted against Moore v. Harper, is that by eliminating checks and balances, in this case on the state legislature level, it potentially jeopardized their position as the Supreme Court to have the ultimate check over state legislatures, and the national legislature potentially make them look bad, potentially. They were disempowering themselves, and as we all know, no one likes to fucking disempower himself. It's probably also the reason why the people who, it's also probably the reason why the things that were happening in, I think part of the reason why the Supreme Court struck down Moore versus Harper is that, or Moore v. Harper, is that you kind of put yourself in a bad position as the Supreme Court if you say that lesser courts can't control what legislatures do. Because let me just put it like this. The precedent that sets is just kind of saying that courts are less important than legislatures and can't control what legislatures do. And no one in their right mind in the Supreme Court, no one in their right mind who isn't being bribed would say, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna disempower myself. Also, it's important to remember, too, that, like some of the members of the Supreme... It is kind of funny to me that fucking, the lady who got added onto the Supreme Court, the Catholic lady, I'm forgetting what her name is, they tried to fucking three fucking letter initial her. That was the lady I forgot. What the fuck is her name? Barrett. I find it funny that Justice Barrett and Justice Kavanaugh have been, like, fairly not insane in office. Like, the 2 of the 3 Trump-appointed justices, like, do they suck? Abso-fucking-lutely. They're horrible. They suck. But they aren't entirely insane. So I have to respect that. But yeah. So does this mean that you should not worry about the future? No. Be worried. Don't be doomer. But have a healthy amount of worry about what may come for us in the future. Because trust me, Republicans aren't going to stop at Moore v. Harper. This also doesn't mean that you should not plan, or that you should not have plans to leave the country. Keep your plans to leave the country. I'm not gonna lie, if Moore v. Harper went in favor of Moore, I would be making plans now to leave the country. Like, I would go to college for 1 year, and then I would, like, contact one of my buddies up in fucking Canada and be like, hey, yo, like, I gotta go, I gotta get out, I gotta leave. But since Moore v. Harper didn't go through, I'ma stay for a little bit. Will I still leave in the long term? But am I leaving immediately? No. So, could it also be because they were younger? Maybe. But I do feel like it's partly judicial corruption on the side of the three people who didn't vote in favor of saving our democracy. And if I'm being honest, I'm glad that our democracy was saved. This is a nice end of Star Wars episode fucking 4 moment. We blew up the Death Star. Congratulations, Shinji. We're doing great. But that doesn't mean that shit is over, you know? The Empire will strike back. Okay? We're gonna have to fight Darth Vader. We're gonna have to be in there like boom, 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 boom. Like we're gonna have to fight these Republican Sith some more, and then towards the end in episode 6, we're gonna fucking blow up the Death Star again. You know, Death Star 2, whatever that may be. So keep an eye on your politics. Be safe. Register to vote. Make sure to vote. And if you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. You can join the link in the description below my Discord so that you know when I am going live, my lovely people. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/realapillow or just @realapillow. And with that being said, I'll see you on the next video. Peace. I gotta hit the stop recording button.